Lubbock and Plainview, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Lubbock.
Yes,
Excellent.
sir.
All right. Welcome back from Thanksgiving. I hope yours was good. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble seeing my monitor today. We're having some technical issues. If y'all can't see me, let me know.
Okay, it's been like that all day for me.
Pardon?
I said we've had those troubles over here all day.
Your mic is cutting out a little bit. I'm sorry.
I said we've had that trouble since 8 o'clock this
All
morning.
right. Yeah, it's still cutting out for some reason. Might turn your mic off and on again. Say that again, please.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I said we've had trouble over here since this morning.
Let me go check. I'm having trouble with the audio. Let's see what they can say about that.
Audio?
I can hear you. Try it again, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We hear you okay.
Excellent. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Mr. Hope?
I'm back. I had to run down the hallway.
Okay.
So there we
Oh,
are.
we can.
We're good.
Okay.
Since they hadn't split the screen yet, and I wasn't able to see what I was sending, and I'm way far off. See what I can do about that. Here we go. Whoa, that's too much. I'm not ready for my close-up. Okay. Come on in. All right, we're about to get started. All right, so I'm running at the. All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm sorry, we're having a little technical difficulty. One of our monitors is dead, so I'm not able to see well. I'm seeing this little picture on the split screen of what I'm sending you all in Plainview and Lubbock, and what I'm sending the students here. But hopefully we'll get it going here in just a moment. But welcome back, and hope that you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving and holidays, Christmas and so on are stressful. I hope yours was not stressful and it was a blessing. There are times with family, it's always fun to get together, but we also have loved ones that we're missing, and we've experienced that in our family recently. But I was blessed that my mom got to leave the nursing home and go to my sister's for Thanksgiving. And she told me when I saw her the week before Thanksgiving that she was going to get up out of that bed. And I said, good, go for it. And so she did, and she's using a wheelchair and a walker some now, but she's getting stronger. And so that was a real blessing, and lots to be thankful for. It's hard to sometimes remember those good things, but we had a lot of good food and a little too much, and I haven't exercised enough since then to work it off, but that'll be all right, and it's good to see you all back. Let me stress this for everyone in all classes. If you're behind and you've missed a test, an exam, get it done as soon as you can, today if possible, because time is going to run out. Today, counting today, we have 4 more times together. That's it. And then we'll have to sadly say adieu, at least for the classwork. And it's not, hopefully that, I won't get to, claps, cheers from the crowd. Hopefully we'll see you again and, be in contact. But, it's hard to believe it's here. And, we're gonna work on, Unit 5 today. In a moment, I'm going to pass out the Unit 5 review. If you paid attention, you got an email from me, right? Last Wednesday. My email, all my server and everything, my wireless service, I thought it was my server at first. My wireless service died on Tuesday night after I put grades on Grade Center. And before I got Lubbock's grade, anyway. So I went down to the Mosaic Coffee Company and used their internet service to finish up my work and got that done on Wednesday for Thanksgiving. But I've tried to be current with everything, but I did send that review in an email. So if you got it, and you may have printed it off or looked at it, we're going to pass that out to you here in just a moment, so you'll have a hard copy of that, paper copy, and you can look at that. So some of you looked at that beforehand, but I'm going to try to really powerhouse through this Unit 5 today and get that done. And so on Thursday, that's our next time together, you'll have time to ask me questions. I'm not going to go over things like I have been. So the review will be up to you all. If you ask me questions, I'll answer anything about it before the exam. But that'll be this coming Thursday. And then I'll launch right into the final units, which will be those chapters for the final exam. The final exam won't be anything comprehensive, as I've told you. It'll just be like a unit test, just over those chapters. But I'll prepare you as well as I can, and you do your part and you'll do well. I do have to say this, and this is something that was a discussion with my colleagues today. Next Thursday, this is our last day of November, right? The December 2nd, Thursday, coming up, is the last day to drop a class. I don't recommend that anyone drop a class. I always want you to dig in and do what you need to do. I think that's a good life lesson. Just get it done, right? And work hard and make things up and make it work. But if anyone does find themselves in a place where they need to drop, Thursday is your last opportunity to do it. So just remember that for those that might have to know that. I hope no one drops. I appreciate all of you sticking it out, and we're going to make it work, okay? So y'all ask me questions as you need to. I'm going to take time right now, if you've not already done so, and give out this Unit 5 review. And so we'll take just a moment and do that real quick. Everyone got the Unit 5 review, hopefully, and I'm going to roll right into this. I've got to find my notes right now for Unit 5. Any questions real quick? This unit is over chapters 14 and then skips to 16, 17, and 18. So let me, without much further ado, let me see if I can switch to the proper camera here. And we'll start on the presentation where we picked up last time. I can't see what I'm doing. Okay. This is kind of crazy. Try it again. Are y'all seeing any? You're seeing me, aren't you? Huh. Okay. I'm not seeing this happen. And I've got to be on screen for this presentation, so y'all give me just a moment. And we've had some technical issues today. There we go. That's something. That's good. And that's not where I want to be. There we go. All right. One of the things, now this is called the Age of Faith in some texts, the Art of the Middle Ages, but we started last time talking about the change in Rome. The Roman Empire was so huge, and then it went from persecuting Christians and putting them to death, to accepting Christianity. And so at the Colosseum, where so much of that wicked stuff happened, they have this Christian ceremony, and then the people walk up the street to the Vatican and they have a huge Easter service. Christianity, they say today, is the most persecuted religion in the world. They say that people that study this say about 40 Christians are martyred every month. Now that's just the 145 nations that they monitor. That's not including closed countries like Afghanistan and North Korea. Who knows there? Now Christianity is not the only religion that's persecuted. Buddhists and Hinduism, Muslims, people who believe in Islam, they're also persecuted. But Christianity is the top of the list. And it's been persecuted. So the persecution didn't end there. And we talked about this in Europe in the Middle Ages and how Christians had to worship in secret in the catacombs. And there's some controversy about whether that really was done, but I'm going to switch to the slideshow now from this slide, and we'll pick up kind of where we left off last time. There are indications like this where Christians made these places into like a little church because they could worship in secret, and people still do that today. They have to. But they find these examples from these worship sites. We talked about the Circus of Nero and how that became the site of the Vatican today, and where you see where St. Peter, the tradition is that he was crucified upside down because he said, "I'm not fit to be crucified like my Lord." Peter felt bad for denying Jesus, but that site is right there. We'll look at that here in a moment. Now here's the map of Europe and the Middle East in the Middle Ages. I'm not going to dwell on this too much. We've seen some of this before. You see the boot of Italy. You see that little town of Ravenna right up above the name Rome. We'll talk about that. And then there's Paris and London. You see Lindisfarne at the top. That'll be important. When my wife and I went to Europe, we went mainly to go to a mosaic school in Ravenna, Italy. And they call themselves, Leadland calls itself the city of mosaics. They call themselves the capital of mosaics. And we tried to do a sister city thing. I haven't given up on that, but we were going to try to exchange mosaics with those people, our teacher, Luciana Noterni there. But one afternoon, on Friday, when we kind of finished our work in the workshops that week at the school, her daughter took us on a tour because her daughter spoke English well and Luciana barely. So she took us down to this little church, not far from the workshop where we were doing these mosaics. Church of San Vitale in Ravenna. Ravenna became sort of the capital of the Roman Empire for a while after it became Christian. And you see this long hallway there on the left, and this octagonal structure of the church, and you see that in this actual picture. And here inside, and your text has some of this, it doesn't have all of it, but I'm not going to refer to page numbers much. Here is inside, and those are all mosaics done of beautiful glass tile, gold tile, and you can see this, your text has some of these pictures. But we were astounded by this. Now, it looks cool, right? It's pretty amazing. But think about, and look at the size of this. It's over 8 feet, nearly 9 feet tall. And these are all lining that long hallway there, and you're looking up at them, just amazed at this. And this is Theodora, and then you see Justinian, who was the emperor then, and they were both Christians, and so the Christianity grew there in the Roman Empire during Justinian, and that's all glass tile, and that's even gold leaf tile that's all around Justinian there. You can see the little pieces of the glass, right? Those are probably about 3/8 of an inch square, maybe a little bit larger to make it up his face. And here's the image of Christ in the Church of San Vitale. After we marveled at these mosaics, she said, we're going to go down the street. And so we walked down the street. We stopped at Dante's tomb. Dante was from Ravenna. And we saw the tomb of Dante, who wrote the Inferno and other great things. And we went to this building, and I thought, well, we've been in this great church, and there's this little building. She said, this is a mausoleum, but no one was ever buried there. It was prepared for. Can y'all see this? Y'all are looking down, some of you. And here's the tomb, supposedly, for Galla Placidia. Can you see? Yes. Question? Yeah, that big monitor's not working today. So you look at the little picture, I'm sorry, we can't change it, because they had this happen today. Pardon? It's kind of hard to see. Yes, sure. I'm having to do that too, but I'm seeing it on my screen here. If I turn this around, I can't really see what's going on. Let me see if I can show you a little bit better. Will this help? Is that more satisfying viewing experience? All right, here's Galla Placidia. Now, what we saw was this kind of nondescript building that someone was going to be buried in. We don't think she was ever buried in there. But when we went inside and our eyes adjusted to the light, we saw these amazing mosaics that are there. Now, y'all are testing my eyes. And this is all glass tile on these domed vaults inside there. And those are all gold leaf. The stars are all gold leaf. I'm sorry, you guys over there can't see very well. Is that better? A little bit better? That better, even? All right. I control your horizontal. I control your vertical. All right. So, inside, that window that you see there was a thin sheet of alabaster stone that let light in. So it took us a while for our eyes to adjust to this. There were a few dim electrical lights in there, but those are alabaster windows. And these are the 4 apostles, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And look at this design. This looks very modern, doesn't it? But it was done way back there. And it's an incredible thing. Beautiful mosaics. We learned a lot when we were in Ravenna, and a lot about traditional mosaic techniques. Now, here's the map of Europe in the Middle Ages, and I'm not going to ask you for all of these things, but you see, if you look there, Istanbul, or what was called Constantinople, which was city built and named after Constantine, the emperor that accepted Christianity. And now, if you see this building, there are these big minarets there because it became a Muslim site. And until just a year or so ago, it was a World Heritage Site where Christians could come and worship, where Muslims could worship, but it was mainly a tourist site, and it's one of the great World Heritage Sites. The current president of Turkey last year came in and said no longer can Christians worship here. Now, that's a bad legacy for him to have. But they've tried to appeal that, and they're pretty tough over there against anything except Muslims, because he's a strong believer in Islam. But you see this structure that was built during the earlier reign, and the huge domes, And of course, it's undeniable that this was a Christian site. Here's this mosaics of Christ. And they call it Christ the Pantocrator there. And some of my slides are the captions are cutting off. Anyway, you're seeing that. Maybe you can read. Yeah, you can read that. It's cutting off in my deal. It says that means that Christ is the Almighty or all-powerful. That's beautiful mosaic tile. And the part that's flaked off there happened during one of the earthquakes, very earthquake-prone area in the world. Okay, we go back across the Adriatic to the boot of Italy and Venice. Now, remember that Venice, the city, is Venice. Venus, the goddess of love, is Venus. Some people mistake that. But this is Venezia, Italia. This is Venice. And here's this amazing piazza, this big plaza, and this church. And this is inside the church there at San Marco, or St. Mark's. And the whole plaza honors St. Mark, who is the patron saint of Venice. And there's a tradition that Mark witnessed there and witnessed for the gospel of Christ in the first century. And there's beautiful gold leaf tile in there. So a lot of these churches and a lot of art that was done during this time was done for the beliefs of the people. Now look at this. Here is, are you with us? Are you looking down for a reason? Okay, you with me now? Okay. I'm giving you your money's worth if you accept it, all right? But one thing that's a misinterpretation sometimes is that the art of Islam forbids images today. People are killed and beheaded over it. And in Paris, my friend who teaches in Paris was there just a few blocks away from when they went to Charlie Hebdo and killed all these people, machine gunned them because they'd published cartoons of Muhammad. And they're not meaning to be disrespectful, but they were showing that they had freedom of the press there. These people didn't believe that. And they tried to do the same thing a few years ago in Garland, Texas. There were people that were apprehended, thank goodness, before they came to this conference that was showing images of Muhammad. They felt were disrespectful. They were going to kill, behead, whatever, people there, and they were apprehended, thank goodness, before they got there. That would happen right in the Metroplex. Hard to believe. But look at this. This is an image of Muhammad that was traditional to the period of time. Does it have the date on there? Can y'all see it? I'm going to move my mouse here. Okay, yeah, this is 1539. So here is this painting that was done, and there were lots of these. But all of a sudden it became forbidden, and they began to simplify the designs, and finally it was just the script and so on. Now you have this picture here. This is a mosque, but it's also the shrine of St. John, and this is John the Baptist. And they say that they have inside there the actual head of John the Baptist, because he was beheaded for preaching about Jesus, his cousin, coming. Here's in Damascus, Syria. So in these places that are really the seats of Islam, there are Christian martyrs there. Yes, sir. They say, I mean, they don't show a picture of it anywhere in this sacred. So they come and worship and honor John, and they think he was a prophet. They think Jesus was a prophet. They don't revere Jesus as Messiah in Islam, but they do honor him as a prophet. Now, you have this map that shows the pilgrimage, and this isn't in your text, but I just wanted to show you this. Pilgrimages are these journeys, and this is all in the notes that I gave you. People would take these journeys, and they did it with other religions too. They still do. I talked to friends that have gone on these pilgrimages to see sacred sites. And I have a lot of friends that have gone to Israel and gone to Jerusalem and other places. That's important to them. But this shows these pilgrimages to Paris and to sites in Spain and France where there's supposedly holy relics there. Well, there's this, someone said one time that if they took all the pieces of the true cross and put them together, that cross would be about 30 feet tall. So I don't know if that's true or not, but you have these pieces of fabric that were the shroud of Jesus. You have these pieces of fabric that were something that one of the apostles or Mary wore. You have little vials that were the tears of Mary. Well, I don't know if any of those are real or not. I'm not going to get into that. But that's why these people were making these pilgrimages to holy sites to pray and to give reverence to their beliefs. And then the Crusades started too, and I have something about that. But I don't know if you've seen this silly movie or not. I'm not sure I can recommend it to you. Monty Python and the Holy Grail. But that's the whole thing. God appears to them and said, I want you to seek the most holy grail. And this is the chalice that was supposedly used at the Last Supper. If you've seen Harrison Ford, those movies, they're looking for this cup, and probably it was a pottery cup, because these were wooden cup. These were poor people, the disciples and Jesus. They didn't have enough money for a gold chalice. Whether it was or not, that's what this silly movie is about, and they're trying to find the Holy Grail. So you hear the Crusades were fought to try to retake the Holy Land from the Muslims and so on. I'm on the second page now. I'm not going to ask you much about Romanesque architecture. I have it in my notes, but I want to talk about Gothic architecture. And Chartres Cathedral is one. And one of the things that you'll notice, and I really don't want to switch cameras now because we had so much trouble. If I did, I would switch to a drawing. But you see this archway, and it comes up to a point there. That's a Gothic arch. And we hear about Gothic things, and I'll talk about that here in a moment. But that pointed arch is the Gothic design. Now, medieval art, early medieval art is about 1,000 years, 400 BC to 1400 AD. Art from this period was thought to be primitive or lacking. And I have this in my notes that art of the Dark Ages, well, it wasn't necessarily a dark period because there was beautiful art done during that time. And your text has this, now I will refer to page 367 in your text, the Lindisfarne Gospels. And Lindisfarne Gospels are the earliest account that we have of the full Gospels. St. Cuthbert wrote these all himself. Now, usually you had several monks working to translate the Bible or passages from the Bible, you okay? But St. Cuthbert did all this himself and did these illustrations we call illuminations. This is all in the text. This is the place, this little island where they had a monastery built. It's a pretty amazing place just to see there off the coast of northern England. But they produced this amazing work, he did, and it's been preserved and saved for us. You have the following pages in your text that show close-ups of this. Here's the ruined monastery. Now, all kinds of things happened in England. Vikings came in and did this. And the Vikings later became Christians. But you see that pointed arch there? That's a Gothic cathedral. And that's the Gothic style. And you have these pictures here that show different scenes from the Bible. And this is what we call a carpet page. And look at the intricacy of this. Now, this is the Dark Ages, right? Well, they didn't do anything beautiful. Oh, yeah, they did. They did a lot of beautiful artwork. And this is using gold leaf in beautiful colors and interlaced images of that. This is what they call the Cairo. Look at that design. If you're not looking up, take a minute instead of highlighting and look up at this because it's not in your text. And these beautiful designs that are part of this Holy Scripture. So Lindisfarne Gospels are very important, and I have that in your text. I think that was on the first page. Yeah, around 700 AD, and those illuminations are those larger letters that were all the designs and the animals and different things. So these things were thankfully preserved. You go down the coast, and I'm back to the first page here. You go to this site called Sutton Hoo or Sutton Hoo. People pronounce it differently. They made a movie about this, I think, in the last year or so called The Dig. I saw it on Netflix. Pretty good movie, pretty factual. But this lady had a farm where she had these big mounds. And it was like, there's nothing like this around. So she hired someone to come in and dig into them. And guess what they found? This amazing Viking burial where they hauled these ships a long way from the shoreline and they buried these leaders inside these ships. And it's pretty amazing stuff. And that's what it looked like during the excavation. And then they preserved this. The bodies, some of them had turned to sand. I want to make sure my phone is off. I got 3 spam calls from Jamaica Mon earlier today. Before I could block them, they one after the other. Anyway, my phone's off. So this person had turned to sand over the centuries. Now this is a reconstruction of one of the helmets that was on this Viking leader. That's amazing, isn't it? It's just beautiful. Now these are in the museum. They're in England, and this is an archaeological site that you can visit. But I've given you the website, and some people have asked me still, Mr. Hope, please, how can I bring up my grade? I keep saying, time's going to run out on those extra credit things, y'all. It's just got to. But go to that site and you'll see some of the amazing things. This is a gold buckle. This is a chieftain, so he had the very best. This is cloisonne, where they put enamel in the gold. Pretty incredible. So you have this style, and they talk about the animal style in your text, and it shows that. That's what the burial reconstructed looked like. It decayed over the centuries, but that's what it looked like. Pretty amazing. Now, you have these stories in the Middle Ages, and people find things all the time. There was just someone in the last week or two in England that was walking and found something and started digging. People they walk around with metal detectors. This gold ring was found, and it says that this may have inspired J.R.R. Tolkien. If you know Tolkien, the Lord of the Rings, the inscription on that was a Roman curse. It said anyone who finds this ring and doesn't return it to the owner is cursed. Well, does that sound a little familiar? Wasn't there a ring that Tolkien wrote this trilogy of books about, and we've seen and enjoyed these amazing movies? So that probably was the ring that inspired Tolkien, but it was from the Middle Ages. Beautiful gold work, and work like this they found, people digging a ditch, or a road, and they'll find these things. But this guy went out, he needed to do a little exercise, looks like, and so he took his metal detector out, and his friend had a pig farm, and he said, okay, 50-50. And so that's what they did. And he found what's called the King's Ransom treasure. And this is valued at over $5 million. And they sold it to the museum, and the court said it was found on this land, and it fell within their rights to have it and to sell it. And so, again, the Middle Ages, not beautiful art? I don't think so. So it was not the Dark Ages exactly, as they call it. I'm not going to ask you much about Charlemagne. Charlemagne and the Holy Roman Empire. What? Yeah. You have all kinds of associations, but Charlemagne in the day was the ruler of the Holy Roman Empire, and you have some things about this in your text. I'm not going to ask you anything. We talked about the relics already. I mean, you have all kinds of things where people would go and visit these relics. The Gothic cathedral, again, we talked about in Gothic art. The Goths were Germanic people, and a lot of times the Goths and the barbarians are talked about as people that didn't have any culture, and they were people that were just warlike, and they had no religion except this pagan religion. That wasn't true. And the Goths became a Christian people, and they were people that took over the Romans. I mean, the Romans were unbeatable for so long, and yet the Goths came in and sacked Rome, the barbarians. We have the word vandalism, right? The Vandals were this same group of people that came in. And so that became this idea of vandalizing something, but they did beautiful art and they became Christians. But this is not goth, right? This is goth, but it's not Gothic like we're talking about, right? So you have these amazing cathedrals like this, and you see the pointed archways and the pointed windows. Here's the way that they built these cathedrals bigger and bigger and bigger, and they built these open areas for these beautiful stained glass windows. They had to have support. We talked about the flying buttresses before, and it's showing here the Romanesque versus the Gothic churches. You see the Romanesque on the left is rounded, the Gothic is pointed arch. Now, one of the greatest cathedrals that was ever built in the Gothic style was right there on the banks of the Seine, right in smack in the middle of Paris. But you know what happened to this beautiful cathedral. And you'd walk off the busy streets when we were there, loud traffic, loud talking, thousands of people probably here at this church, and you walk in those doors and it just gets quiet. People start whispering because it's a reverent place. And you're awestruck by the beauty of it. But you know what happened here in 2019, April 15th. Controversy about the cause of, they say, wiring. Many people believe that a Muslim terrorist came in and set it on fire. Not long after that, they tried to burn the Chartres Cathedral and they were caught. The other churches have been burned by terrorists. But this was pretty much in ruin. And you can watch film of it online. It's just terrifying. And to be in this amazing, beautiful church and then to see it in ruins like this. But their idea is to restore it. I saw something the other day that one plan is to have a Disney park there. That would be absolutely wrong to have that. So hopefully the plan is continuing to rebuild it. You have these gargoyles there. If you've ever seen The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Victor Hugo's classic is an amazing read. But you have these amazing, beautiful stained glass windows inside that many of them were not hurt by this. And they're being removed so they can do the restoration and all. So we're praying that that will be done. You have this in your text about Bondone. I'm not going to ask you much about him. But I wanted to show this. The style changed from the early part of the Middle Ages to Cimabue, that's how you say that name, the Virgin and Child enthroned, and we'll talk about that a little more later, to the Renaissance style of Giotto and the Virgin and Child enthroned. This is basically the same subject, but look how one is more naturalistic than the other. So the style began to change, and we'll talk about that later. Now we're going to switch to chapter 16, and the art of Africa and Islam. So y'all stick with me. And page numbers, let's see, where are we here? This is chapter 16. It's showing this map of Africa. And Africa, it talks about the Muslim churches there. But the Africans are considered by many people pagans. And I've talked to students that sit right in this classroom with me. And they're Christians. I met them going to church here. They're students that are coming here from Nigeria and Kenya and other countries. But they say, I'm still a member of my tribe. I'm still a member of this tribe. And I said, so do you meet as a tribe and you get in your traditional dress? And they said, oh yes. And showed me some pictures when they got together with their people of their tribe. And they said, we're still Christians, but we want to uphold the traditional beliefs. But you see these different cities that are given in the map there. That map is in your text on page 432. But some of these sites we'll talk about, the rock art there goes back tens of thousands of years in places, and ancient sites they found. Your text shows you this mosque, and this mosque that's made out of adobe brick. There's some stone there, but adobe brick that has to be recoated with mud. This is a huge mosque. And they show you some of the beautiful artwork they've done, castings in bronze and so on. But the tribal style, these masks, and the traditional simplified style of some of these tribes, became very influential when a group of these masks in the early 1900s went to Paris for a show. And people like Pablo Picasso saw it, and they began to change their style because of those masks. We'll talk about that later on too. But that is a great influence, that tribal style, simplified view of the human face in these masks influenced Cubism. We'll talk about that later on. Islam, and this is from my notes here, it says it's a monotheistic religion in the tradition of Abraham. And so they hold many things that Christians believe, and they believe in some of the same prophets, but they're submitting to Allah and the holy book of the Quran. And I talked about them forbidding images. Well, the later designs, here's the page from the Quran, became very simplified designs from this all the way to the simplified geometric designs. Here's the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem. But these people make a pilgrimage at least once a year to go to Mecca, or at least once in their lifetime. But you see these people, and there's a copy of the Quran inside this structure, and these people go around and around. These men, the women are not part of this. They worship separately. But you see this mihrab, and I have that in your text on at the bottom of the page. Mihrab is a little niche in the wall that faces Mecca. And it doesn't matter where you are. In a Muslim city, in many cities, I mean, you see minarets in downtown Plano, Texas today. And they have an announcement to worship. These people get in one of these sites, or they may have them in their homes. They may put down a prayer rug and they face Mecca and they pray. But look how simplified and geometric the designs are, because they don't reflect any one thing. They feel like that, as the religion and the beliefs progress, would be sacrilegious to Islam. So I have that in the text. Now, in southern Africa, because we're still in that chapter about Africa, there was this group of people called the Zagwe, and they had these huge domes of rock. Have any of you been to Enchanted Rock in the Hill Country? Put it on your list. You've hiked there, and it's a big dome of granite, this huge dome of granite. Have you climbed up? It's a little strenuous, isn't it? Yeah, you have to have your breath control good and have your hiking boots on to get up to the top of that. Well, here are these domes of granite, and these people carved down inside there. Now, you think that might be little, but when you see that it's large, and they did at least 3 of these, they carved these cross-shaped structures, because even in the pagan beliefs and even in the spread of Islam, these people were Christians, and they went here where they wouldn't be bothered, and they made a church. They talk about build your church on solid rock. This is solid rock. And they carved these structures and painted them, and they not only carved everything away to leave this cross-shaped structure that's 3 stories tall, but they carved out the inside and made rooms for worship. That's pretty incredible, isn't it? Yeah, I'd love to visit there someday. Yeah, pretty amazing. Okay, so now we're going to chapter 17, and we're moving right all around the world. Art of the Americas and the Pacific. So chapter 17 talks about the beautiful art that's in the Americas. And when we went to Brazil with our church one time, we went on a mission trip. We were in Brazil. They said, don't tell people that you're Americans. And we said, why not? And they said, they're Americans too. You're North Americans, they're South Americans, right? And they're Central Americans. So anyway, here's South America, and these sites in South America, some we've seen before, like Nazca, and there's Machu Picchu we've looked at before. And these people have their own culture. Mesoamerica, that's Central America now. My sister just went to near Palenque, Tikal, with some of her friends for a getaway before the holidays. And it's a much visited resort area. Here's the Pyramid of the Sun. Now these pyramids that were built in Mexico, in Central America, and some in South America, they were built for worship. Now, there's some burials in some of these pyramids, but mainly they were built as temples, and this is a tribute to the sun god. And the bad thing about the beliefs of these people, when the Spanish came in to spread Christianity and Catholicism, they found these people sacrificing numerous people, sometimes every day. And human sacrifice was very much what their belief was based on. They had to appease the sun gods, and they were doing wicked things. And I think, have I mentioned Apocalypto before? Mel Gibson's movie. I don't really recommend it to you. If you've seen it, you know how bloody it is. And they say that, I talked to some archaeologists who have studied this, and they said, oh, that was just a little hint of how bad it was. And so these people were sacrificed, and they actually got tired of it, and they were fleeing this, and that's what part of that movie shows. Now here's a map of North America, and you see going up even to the Alaskan area, that's Kwakiutl, that's how you say that name, and the Tlingit tribes and so on. We have this idea of Native American peoples being very placid and the noble savage, some people say, but these people were at war with one another from the beginning of time, we think. Then someone said, can you estimate how, I saw an archaeologist write about this one time, said, can you estimate how many people were taken into slavery by ancient tribes and how many people were killed before Columbus came? And people say Columbus was the beginning of the problem. They say maybe 3 to 4 million people were killed in wars with native tribes. So it's, sadly, the history of the world is conflict. The history of people, they were always in conflict, and I guess maybe they always will be until the end of time. As my friend says, until Jesus comes back. Anyway, here's this robe with the battle scene. A beautiful artwork the Native Americans did using the materials they had. Here's a bison robe or a buffalo hide. And you see points like this. I found them. There are sites all over this place, the Llano Estacado especially. If you find a Playa Lake and you look on the east side of it, if you have permission to look, you can find traces of flint and fire stones, caliche that's been burned and looks gray. I found it on this campus up by the lake there that's on this campus, edge of Brazier Lake. But you can find these stone points of these people that were highly cultured and very talented to do this. Now, in the sites of Clovis and Plainview, you'll find where in Clovis they were digging caliche, and they found where the spring was, and you can visit the Clovis site. It's actually closer to Portales, but they found the Clovis Point, which they named after the nearby town of Clovis, and it's this special shape. I've seen these arrowheads that are 5-6 inches long sell for up to $10,000. But you can still find them. They're out there, but they go back 10,000 years. That's this culture of these early people who were highly skilled to make a spear point. And think about this. I know guys that are going out hunting now, and people that have hunted turkey and sandhill cranes and ducks and different things and deer. Can you imagine, instead of using a high-powered rifle, have a shaft of wood that you selected yourself and a stone point that you made yourself and taking down a woolly mammoth? I can't. Go over to the Lubbock Lake site and see the actual size of those sculptures. Shows you how big those things were. This is Alabates flint that came from north of Lake Meredith, right around there. And they find these traded all over the world. Beautiful stuff. And Plainview has its own point that was found right there in a little draw right south of downtown. You've got this monument. They have a gazebo over it now and a historical marker. These young boys that were looking around, just like in Lubbock, they were, I had someone say one time, why are boys always finding things? Well, boys are looking around. They're exploring, right? And that's what kids do. And so they found this point that showed someone, and archaeologists came in. So you have the Plainview Point and Clovis Point that show these sites that were significant because it's where early man lived and hunted and they're associated with that. And this is in your museum there in Plainview, down the West Dakota Museum. Now, non-Western cultures, move on to that, and you have other, that's the next chapter, in chapter 14, art of India and Asia, and I'll just kind of scroll through this fairly quickly here. But the non-Western world, beautiful cultures that's very influential. We've already talked about Raku pottery and how that's done in our school here in Texas Tech. We saw this mausoleum, this burial site of Emperor King Shi Huangdi, this megalomaniac emperor who built this great thing. And I think my slide dropped out of the Great Wall of China. You have this samurai armor here. Yeah, my slide of the Great Wall of China is not there, but that's in your notes. That wall, we talk about building a wall now, and people are for it and people are against it, but it was built in the 3rd century by the emperor to keep out nomadic people that were invading. 13,000 miles long, now that's a wall, and much of it still exists. Here's in Kyoto, Japan, you see these beautiful screens and Asian art. And of course, Hinduism and Buddhism are part of that. And we see some of these sites that have been destroyed, sadly. And then Hawaii is included in there, and the beautiful feather work that's done that still exists, and these leis. If you go to Hawaii, they put these flower leis on, but the really special ones were made of feathers of these birds that live there. Now you see these arrows that show the flow of travel. These people that were amazing navigators, they could read the stars and they could read the waves, and they traveled from one island to the next and spread out. And you have a map of that, not exactly the same one, page 457. Finally populated these islands and probably came to Hawaii. But on Easter Day in, let me find my notes here. I've lost my place. On Easter Day, they believe these explorers came and saw these amazing statues, and you see them all around there. Yeah, that's in the notes. Easter Day, April 5th, 1722. Dutch explorers came to this island. They saw these statues. It was magnificent. They didn't understand them. We still don't know exactly if they were leaders or just a significant offering to the gods or whatever. These carvings out of stone set up along the shoreline. And you see these 600, some of them, over 60 feet tall. That's 6 stories, y'all. Pretty amazing. Easter Island. Let's see. I think I've talked about everything there. I will go back to one thing real quick, and let's see if I can even get there. It's hard to work your cursor sideways, backwards. But let me go back here because we got a couple of minutes here. Yeah, to the art of Japan. We looked at this art from Asia before and talked about the beautiful art that was done on these screens. Now there's the Buddhist art. I'm in the wrong place here. You go back up just a little bit. Well, you have this in your text, and you have it in your notes there. The art of these people in Japan and China is still very influential, and I know people here in Levelland that have copies of this artwork on their walls. But this, bless you, this term that I've given here, it doesn't talk about this in the text, but I think it's something I mentioned before. The floating world, the ukiyo-e, these screens that were done, and I totally lost my place on this, not being able to see this directly. Here, I'm sorry. Yeah. Anyway. That also influenced the French Impressionists and these woodblock prints and different things that were done. And I'm sorry, I've lost my monitor today. But Asian art is very influential. Now, do y'all have any questions about this before, let's see if I can switch my camera back to me here. And it's not gonna obey me. Anything? Okay, now, here's what I'm gonna do, and I'll say this, and you can hear it even if you can't see me. Here's what I'm gonna try to do, and see if this will switch it. I'm still working on it. Get my camera back. Nope, that's not gonna get off me, okay. So anyway, here's what I'll say. On Thursday, that's our next class together, I'll let you come in and study, and I'll give you time to ask questions about the material here. Now, don't ask what's gonna be on the test, Mr. Hope. These things that I've pointed to today, there's a lot of material here in the review, but some of you highlighted things as we were going along, and you listened to what I was doing. You weren't distracted by other things, your phone or whatever else about it, and you paid attention. Go back and watch this lecture on the link, because it'll be posted a little later today if you want to study, and I'll allow you to ask questions, but I'm not going over this review material before the test on Thursday. On Thursday, after we meet and you ask questions, we'll take Unit 5 test, then I will give you the material for the final exam. I'll give you those notes already. So we'll have Thursday, part of the class, and the next Tuesday to finish up a very revised, slimmed down version of that material from those last chapters. And then we'll take the final a week from Thursday on the 9th, December 9th. So, any questions before y'all go? All right. Email me if you have questions. For anyone that's not finished your work and needs to make a test, please do so today if you can, and we'll get grades all taken care of. And if you need to ask me about anything for extra credit, I've given you some opportunities. Email me or ask me, and I'll help you as much as I can. We'll have everything working next time, I hope. Y'all take care.